My approach of researching the information on the mounds is not only going through each mound location, but looking at the archaeologists involved in the excavations, along with the organizations or entities who are associated with these digs financially, politically, and physically. Entities like UNESCO, for example. So I apologize if it appears that I'm jumping around. I am. But that is essential to understanding where we are and uncovering the history that's been withheld or distorted. The next excavator we're looking at is Moreau B Chambers. As we can see here, Moreau was working for the Smithsonian, or the gatekeepers of all U.S. history. He also worked with Henry Collins alongside James Alfred Ford, whom we've already discussed in a previous video. According to the archives of the Smithsonian, Moreau was an archaeologist with the Mississippi Department of Archives and History during the 1920s and the 1930s. He used CCC money, or Civilian Conservation Corps money, for his projects, and went on to be an archivist at Catholic University in Washington, D.C. during the 1960s and the 1970s, which is really quite interesting, isn't it? If you'd like to read the whole outline on Moreau, please look him up at the Smithsonian Institute under their archives listed as Moreau B Chambers. The CCC, or Civilian Conservation Corps, was created by Franklin Delano Roosevelt by executive order on April 5, 1933. It lasted about 9 years and supposedly established work for unemployed men during the Great Depression, even though the Depression was ironically created by the elite to make these men unemployed, but I digress. According to the National Park Service, Roosevelt, and I'm sure other elites of that time, were looking to make land grabs under the guise of rebuilding America, with them in full control. Now, where have we heard that before? The goal was for them to control exactly what happens on these lands. Lands with huge spiritual significance. Lands that hold Nephilim artifacts, or spiritual gates, and supernatural powers. That's why location is so important to the elites, the wealthy upper echelon of society. Nothing new under the sun, right? But back to Mr. Chambers. According to Mississippi Archives, he was born in Winchester, Kentucky on May 24, 1909. He graduated with special honors from Mississippi College in 1932, and he became curator for the Mississippi Department of Archives and History in 1934. Wow, he was given a lead position in such a short time frame, almost like the position was created for him. Remember that later in life he was appointed to university archivist at the Catholic University of America, located in D.C.? This man moved up quickly in his field, so I'm beginning to think that he's a member of the Brotherhood. What is that position that he was doing there exactly? I wonder, but I guess we'll come back to that later. The men Mr. Chambers was publicly noted for having personal correspondence with were numerous, and upon reading some of those papers, we find that he was one of the diggers of Shiloh National Military Park, which we've already mentioned in another video. He had discussions regarding the excavations in Bentonia, Canton, at Gross Mound, the Fatherland, which is in Natchez, and Pocahontas Village, all also located in Mississippi. So just to summarize about Mr. Chambers here, he worked for the Smithsonian Institute alongside Henry Collins, whom we'll discuss in another video for those not familiar with the Collins name. He worked not only for the state of Mississippi Department of Archives, but the Catholic University in Washington, D.C. And I believe this is really important to note here. This university is a private Roman Catholic research university and a pontifical university of the Catholic Church in the United States, the only institute of higher education founded by U.S. Catholic bishops, meaning, in layman's term, relating to a pontiff or papal, meaning the Roman Catholic Pope or Bishop of Rome, was promoted to this position. So this university is classified as a doctoral university of high research, or R2D2. That is a classification framework created by the Carnegie Classification of Colleges and Universities. And just as a side note, the responsibility for the Carnegie classification was transferred in 2015 to Indiana University School of Education in Bloomington, Indiana, and is managed by the Public Purpose Institute at Albion College. I wonder why. Mr. Chambers became a very powerful, influential man behind the scenes, and those of us who understand the implication or connection to the elite bloodlines, well, he was put in place, or you'll see that he's put in place, not only with intention to control the artifacts and the archaeological findings, but to control how it's presented to the public. So to gain a better understanding of some of the entities and establishments behind the history of the Temple Mounds, we must examine them more closely. My next video will be on what is the Smithsonian Institute.